Okay, so by the way, Russell's been telling us the whole time they totally believes in the people of Ukraine, and it's great that the Russians are standing the fuck up and blah, blah, blah. And yet at the same time, his buddy over here, Jimmy Dore, he just had him on, okay? Jimmy has been pushing this bullshit about Ukraine had it coming, that if Ukraine didn't want to be in this position, they shouldn't have been walking around late at night in a short skirt. It's fucking gross. And check this out. Like some people, this has over 250,000 views. Again, Jimmy has nearly 1 million subscribers. Ukraine neo-Nazis infiltrate every level of military and government. So if you are against Russia's attack on Ukraine, you are pro-neo-Nazi. Why is everyone all of a sudden pro-neo-Nazi? Why would we all support the neo-Nazi regime of the Ukraine? That's his argument. Especially since it's already Russian territory, right? Now this is like 25 minutes long, and I don't have time to do all of it. So we'll do about 10 minutes of it, and you'll get the gist, I have no doubt. But let's take a gander at where the fucking argument is.
Look at this.
So
people are saying just total fiction how Putin is using Nazi propaganda to defend invasion of Ukraine.
Yeah, it is just total fiction that they need to denazify the Ukrainian government and its people, and that's justification for invading. It is fiction. It's fucking crazy. Also, by the way, before all this starts, I would like to remind you that the neo-Nazis that are in Russia, a good portion of them were funded and fomented by Russia itself. Same with the ones, the hyper right-wing in Germany and in France. They have their fingers in it over here. It's one of the things that they're doing to drive it up. And that's why every time you turn around, Russia's like, look, there's neo-Nazis over there. Like, where? Right there. Well, how do you know? Well, because we pay them to stand right there.
So they're saying there's the allegation that the Ukraine military has...
The Ukraine?
And the government has neo-Nazis infiltrated and embraced by the government, actually.
Yeah, embraced by the government. That's the lie right there. In terms of all the sorts of constituent parts of Nazism, none of this is in play in Ukraine. Jonathan Dekolchan, a history professor at Jerusalem's Hebrew University, told the Associated Press. But look, it's well known at this point that Jerusalem's Hebrew University is rife with neo-Nazis, and obviously would come, riding in on a white supremacist horse to support the neo-Nazis in Ukraine. I mean, honestly, Jerusalem's Hebrew University, I mean, we're going to believe them.
And here's the PBS News Hour.
Yeah, the PBS News Hour.
Remember, it's funded by oligarchs and the government. So
yes, the PBS is funded by the oligarchs and the government. You mean the U.S. government, taxpayer? Fucking PBS is the enemy now?
Not getting the truth from PBS, even though you think you are.
By the way, Jimmy, did you just get out of the hospital? What is that shirt?
You're just as bad as anything else out there.
Yes, PBS is way worse than Tucker Carlson.
Yes.
It's just as bad as anything else. Fucking PBS.
Analysis. Putin's claim that war on Ukraine is to target Nazis is absurd. Here's why.
Yes. And by the way, if you were targeting Nazis, you would be targeting Nazis. You would not be shooting missiles into apartment blocks and nuclear reactors.
So he says he's going to fight those Nazis. So in case you don't know what's happening...
Yeah, in case you don't know what's happening, the whole place is run with Nazis, and this is a personal friend of Jimmy's. He knows him well.
There's...
Right, the Minsk Agreement, which Russia did with the previous regime right after Yanukovych, that was basically a draw right before they invaded Crimea and Donbass. And they're like, you guys stop shooting at our guys and we'll stop moving soldiers in. And they never did. This is just nonsense. The Minsk Agreement, as if it's some sort... By the way, I pointed this out earlier, but in 1997, and I showed this on the morning show, and if you missed it this morning, I'll show it again. But in 1997, Russia and NATO signed a pact that allows for any country that wants to join NATO or stay out of NATO to make their own fucking decisions. That was in 97. Jimmy doesn't know or care about that because it would interfere with his fucking lie.
Minsk agreement, which after they overthrew the government in Ukraine.
Yes, after they overthrew the Yanukovych regime. After Yanukovych ran away to Russia, they were going to impeach him, but they had to have the prime minister stand for a little while as the president. But that's a coup.
They kept shelling the people in eastern Ukraine.
You mean there was a war between the separatists and Ukraine as Russian forces tried to take the country?
Right, who didn't want to go along with the
Thank you, Bethany. Happy
and
birthday.
So those people are ethnic Russians.
Yes, they're ethnic Russians, especially in Crimea, when which is really interesting since in Crimea it used to be full of Turkish descendants, Tartars, and they were all run out by the USSR and supplanted by Russians over the course of decades during the existence of the USSR. So the native peoples of Crimea were driven away a long fucking time ago. But these are native Russians. They're native speakers.
So they identify with Russia?
Yeah, they identify with it because they were put there to identify with Russia. And the people who don't identify with Russia were systematically killed during the last 10 years.
And they didn't want to be part of this new undemocratic government.
Yes, undemocratic. You know, the one that's had elections.
And so they would shell them.
They would shell them. They were just shelling them. It's just random shelling.
And they killed 14,000 of them over the last 8 years, even though...
No, 14,000 people have died in that region. That's a battlefield. And secondly, a lot of those people were Ukrainians who identify, who are nationalist Ukrainians who want to keep their territory Ukrainian and were murdered by Russians in the area. But 14,000 innocent Russians that were killed because they magically ended up in Ukraine and when it was turned into a free chunk of land.
Supposed to be a ceasefire in 2015. Called
Yes, there was supposed to be a ceasefire. And then the little green men came in.
Minsk agreement.
The Minsk agreement was a ceasefire. There was supposed to be a ceasefire. And the stupid people wouldn't just take the bullets in the name of a ceasefire.
So Putin says he's going in to stop that slaughter of those people.
Right. And those people that are being slaughtered in the Donetsk and Luhansk area are being slaughtered all across the country on 4 invasion points. That's why there's ships in the Black Sea firing missiles. That's why they invaded from the north through Belarus. It's because they needed to get an angle on the Nazis. They had to sneak up on them. The Nazis were all in their hide. I mean, there's so much. I mean, they're everywhere.
In the east of Ukraine, which the Ukraine government...
Yeah, they're the Nazis in the east of Ukraine. That's why they moved in through the south and through the north, doing a pincer move on Kyiv. Because they're targeting Nazis in the east.
Hasn't stopped shelling. Now, that is true.
No, it isn't.
I'm also against his invasion.
Why? Why are you pro-neo-Nazi? They're everywhere. Did you not see the title of your own video, Jimmy? Ukraine neo-Nazis infiltrate every level of military and government. They're everywhere. You can't just attack the East if they're everywhere.
War is not a good idea.
Yeah, it's not a good idea. As the on my decision tree of ideas, war is not. I would put it in the C column.
So, but here, there's PBS claim
right
that there is no the claim of Nazis is wrong.
Yes, the claim that he is denazifying Ukraine by strafe bombing and directing missiles on apartment blocks is fucking insane.
And there was also People magazine got it.
Yes, we know you showed that one first.
So here's Alex Rubenstein. So we're gonna lay this all out for you. This will be nice.
Great, this will be awesome.
He says, watch Yevhen Karas, the leader of Ukraine's neo-Nazi terror gang C-14's speech from Kiev earlier this month. Straight from the horse's mouth, he dispels the many narratives pushed by the left, the mainstream media, and the State Department.
And why would a neo-Nazi at a promotional event for his cause and his angle say anything untrue. I mean, obviously, if you're going to get the truth, Jimmy wants you to get it from the source. And Jimmy thinks that the source, the final source on truth in Ukraine is a neo-Nazi frontman.
So he's going to brag about he's not denying.
So by bragging, he doesn't mean bragging. He means telling the absolute truth.
The Nazi.
And, you know, basically if he's a Nazi, so is that little girl that got blown up, you know. I mean, she's neo-Nazi adjacent. I mean, she kind of...
He's going to brag that of all the influence they had...
Geez, it's almost like he's trying to raise money for his cause and take credit for shit. Weird. Sounds like a lesson in honesty.
Coup. And that the fact that the coup wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for the Nazis. What?
Oh, yeah, all right. If they're taking credit for it. See, I thought it was the West. I thought... Oh, I mean, the West is neo-Nazis, right? I mean, that isn't... Probably Barack Obama. Yeah, that's what it was. The neo-Nazi regime of Barack Obama fomented a coup in Ukraine so that we could eventually put a neo-Nazi Jew in charge. Fucking hell.
So he says Maidan was the victory of the nationalist ideas. That was the coup that took place. That was the coup that took place.
Yeah, the coup. The Maidan was the coup that took place. You mean the demonstrations in the streets that eventually led the parliament to put impeachment, to bring impeachment against Yanukovych, and he fucking well ran off? By the way, it wasn't a coup. They didn't overtake the fucking buildings. The government still functioned structurally. The leader left. The PM took over. It wasn't a coup.
And he said that was the victory for the nationalist ideas. Well, what does nationalist mean? It means Nazi ideas.
Yes, if you're a nationalist, no matter what nation it is, if you're a nationalist, you're a Nazi.
Right? Okay.
Yeah, okay. And this guy, being a neo-Nazi, claiming nationalism for himself, is the sorry.
Nationalists were the key factor there, and clearly at the front lines.
Thanks for reading on our behalf. See what he says? This guy's telling you the truth. If you want the truth, this is the guy to believe.
Now, there is a lot of speculation saying, well, there were only a few neo-Nazis. LGBT and foreign embassies are saying there were not much neo-Nazis on Maidan. Maybe about 10% of the real ideological ones.
Oh my God. These LGBT and foreign embassies were saying there's only about 10% of the people in the Maidan protests were neo-Nazis. Well, it was probably, 100%. I mean, they're at every level of military and government, Jimmy. Clearly, he's going to tell you, it wasn't 10%, it was 80% at least.
The
thing is that such a thing can say only a moron that never was at war. And don't understand that those 10%, maybe even less, 8%.
Oh, I'm sorry, what? So not only were they not 10% of the Euromaidan protests, they were 8%. And that 8% were shit stirrers sent there to cause violence. By the way, Manafort, literally working with agent provocateurs to start unrest so that it would give Yanukovych's regime good reason to fire into the crowd with snipers. That's how people got killed. And by the way, the person said that 10%, there's less.
But how much they are and how much more effective in the proportion of influence. So he's saying, yeah, we might have only been 10% or 8%, but what was our effect?
Yes, he's bragging. He's full of shit. He's trying to claim credit for the Euromaidan. Why the fuck would I believe this asshole? Why is this any indication that Ukrainians are neo-Nazis? Because this asshole was like, they said it was only 10% of us. Really, it was closer to 8%, but we kicked some ass.
That's what he's saying. What was the proportion of our influence? How much of their effectiveness was? It was endless.
Yeah, endless. It will never end. They will never stop being Nazis. Get fucked. Look at this. Look at Jimmy just fishing for something to hang his hat on that the Ukrainians deserve this. This is kind of amazing.
He says, if not for those 8% of neo-Nazis, the effectiveness of Maidan would have dropped by 90%.
Yes, that's the kind of thing a neo-Nazi would say when they're in the minority of a large group that won their international freedom. What the fuck? There may have only been 8% of us there, but when the rest of Ukrainians who aren't aligned with us won their democracy back and were able to pick their leaders again, they owe it to us. What the fuck?
So he's saying most of the credit has to go to these right-wing nationalist neo-Nazis.
And so are you. Jimmy is agreeing with him. Jimmy thinks that neo-Nazis deserve all the credit for the Euromaidan.
For the coup.
Which wasn't a coup.
So it's the numbers. It's not the point. Also, what...
So the number's not the point. The point that we were only 8% of the people there is not the point. We did it all, says the neo-Nazi. And yes, they did, says Jimmy Dore. And that's why there's a Jew running Ukraine right now. Because...
started firing on the crowds. People thought that was the government doing that. Turns out...
It was.
Now, there's lots of credible evidence that the Nazis were doing it.
No, the Nazis started firing at the towers so that they would fire back because the neo-Nazis were put there by the Russian government as spoilers. They were they were the agent provocateurs working with Paul Manafort and that crowd to start the battle so they'd have a reason to put down the protesters. Do you get it's a kill box.
Like now, some left-wingers like Bull Foundation and so on, they're trying to count numbers.
Yes, they're trying to go, yes, sure. You know, out of 1,000 people that were there were only 9 neo-Nazis who came in, lit off some fireworks, fired some guns, and caused the snipers to start shooting into the crowd. But that's not important. It's the fact that those other 1,000 people just aren't... They're neo-Nazi adjacent. To what?
So the reason why they're doing that is that now the West doesn't want to recognize the Nazis in Ukraine
because they've got a Jewish president and a functioning democracy. What the fuck are you talking about? What is this? What is the argument here? This guy's part of a neo-Nazi gang. He's not in the goddamn government.
Bad for them. It's a bad look. And this guy's saying something like...
Yeah, this guy who Jimmy trusts more than the actual government of Ukraine.
There were that many nationalists. They had that much influence. If not for the nationalists, that whole thing, meaning the coup, would have turned into a gay parade. That's what he said.
Yes. And you believe him. What the fuck is this? How is that? And first of all, what are you laughing about? But secondly, why in the world are we taking a Nazi at his word, Jimmy? Especially when he admits that he had less physical influence than you even said he did.
So, okay. So now there's more. Max, you want to comment on any of that?
Well,
Yeah, Max. Tell him, comment on something. Tell him how that the majority of Ukrainians are neo-Nazis now, and that the attack from Belarus was necessary to just purge the Nazis. Do you have any idea how many Nazis there are at the nuclear reactors in Ukraine? They've taken over the entire energy sector.
let's keep it rolling.
Okay.
Yeah, let's keep it rolling. I don't want to interfere.
So here's more. He says, we were now been given so much weaponry, not because some say the West is helping us. So they've been given all this weaponry from the West.
No, he's saying they weren't.
And some say it's because they want to help you. And he says, Oh, that's not why.
Тому що ми хороші, як нам кажуть, нам допомагає Захід, бо вони хочуть нам блага, тому що ми виконуємо
He
задачі
says not because the West wants the best for us, but because we perform the tasks set by the
Заходу.
West.
Тому що ми єдині, хто готові
Because we are the only ones who are ready to do them.
And he means kill like Chechens, Turks, and ethnic Russians in the eastern part of the country, in theory.
бо нам весело, нам прикольно
Because we have fun. We have fun killing, and we have fun fighting.
вбивати і прикольно воювати. І вони
And again, I'm at a loss as to why I'm supposed to take this shitheel seriously. I mean, would Jimmy just sit there and play David Duke talking and bragging about his influence in Southern politics and saying that, you know, the KKK has a great time fighting and use that as evidence that the entirety of the government everywhere is overrun with the David Dukes of the world?
вау, давайте уже
And they're like, wow, let's see what's going to happen.
буде. Тому виник цей новий альянс, про який зараз говорять там Туреччина.
And that is the reason for the new alliance, Turkey, Poland, Britain, and Ukraine. So he's saying, we're starting this whole new thing. There's going to be a whole new power alliance, and it doesn't rely on NATO.
Польща, Британія.
Oh, I thought NATO was the expansion was the reason why he had to go in and accept neo-Nazis.
Україна. Тут ми тут
We are the flagman here because we have started a war. He's taking credit for starting this war with Russia.
Yes, he's taking credit for everything, fucko. So what?
We have started a war that has not been seen for 60 years.
Oh my God, 60 years. He said 60 years, guys. He said this. He said 60 years. That's, I mean, he's talking about time. So,
війну, якої не було вже останніх 60 років. Так от,
what, I mean, are we supposed to react to this the way this is that like no one has ever seen before? Where we've seen this kind of linguistic, aggrandizement.
уявіть це.
So imagine how many weapons we have, how many veterans that we have.
Yeah, he's bragging. I don't give a fuck.
У нас ветеранів. А тепер уявіть,
And imagine
зникає
Russia
Росія,
falls
вона
apart,
розпадається. Тобто
and
виникає
it turns into 5
Росія,
different
Росія,
Russians or something
на
like that.
європейському континенті.
We have the most javelins on the European continent. Maybe only the UK has more javelin missiles than they do.
Тільки в Британії там
Ukraine does, not the neo-Nazis. C-19 does not have more javelins than the UK.
це більше. Ви розумієте, цей потенціал
The potential of those armed forces will immediately become a problem for all those who oppose
Це
us.
стане проблемою зразу для всіх, хто зараз там десь там намагається робити хенті.
For all those who are trying to give us problems.
Yes, who are trying to give us problems.
І оце от є наша
It is our joy and our
це наша
sorrow.
печаль. Чому, щоб ви розуміли,
You
чому
need
так
to
все важко?
understand
Не тому,
why.
що
Yes, it is hard, not because we are Ukrainians and our asses suffered for
ми
300
українці,
years.
300 років, наша дупа страждала. Чому ж нарешті влада до нас?
Why finally everything good, not just given to us? We're such good people. So he's mocking people as being crybabies saying that. And so, but the real
You mean the other Ukrainians who aren't neo-Nazis who have this coming because there's neo-Nazis in video clips bragging about their undue influence that's bullshit.
And he says,
Гроші, ми хочемо в Європу. Ні.
and he said, oh, those people, we want to join Europe. He doesn't
Right, he doesn't want to join Europe. So he would be against the current regime and the administration of Ukraine that does want to join with Europe. They are anti-Europe because they are pro-Russia. They just don't like the other people coming into their country.
This is what he
Величезна,
says.
потужна держава.
No, we are a huge, powerful state. And if we come to power, it will be both joy and problems for the whole world.
Dun, dun, dun.
І якщо ми тут прийдемо до влади, це буде і радість, і проблеми для всього.
It's reading time with Jimmy, where Jimmy reads you your favorite neo-Nazi bedtime story, full of bullshit and flagrant ego wagging.
Світу. Тому це величезна амбітна
Therefore, it is a huge, ambitious task. We live in a very cool time. I don't know what this translation means. That's a weird translation. We live in a very
Why is that weird? He means it. We live in a very cool time. There's a lot of stuff, it's working out for us.
cool time.
Тому перед нами стоять надзвичайно
And that is why there is an extremely ambitious, cool goal. See, I don't know what that means.
It means he's throwing in a hip word that normally in Ukrainian means cool.
Бідна, класна ціль. Не просто стати там частиною
Not just become part of a European family that has already collapsed.
європейської
Right, that has already collapsed. Like, who wants to be part of Europe? That's gross.
сім'ї, яка вже там розвалилася. А це є вже...
This is about new
Oh, were you? Or is there? Sorry. By the way, fear not about the trolls. Don't overreact to them because they have no power here. Yes, the Russians are, and there's going to be a bunch of them, obviously, that are in here. Hold on. Hold on. I'll do a little house cleaning in case anybody's being offensive. Let me get a good look at some stuff. Let's see. Oh, I see. Gotcha. Gotcha. Okay. So it's the yeah, there we go. Sorry. Gotcha. Welcome to the show, by the way. This is this is indicative of the kind of people that like Jimmy's show. They're going to show up and say this kind of stuff because they get very upset. Ta-da! Got him, I think. For the most part. But we don't get upset about it. I mean, honestly, and never let them get the best of you. And most of the time, if they're not, if they're doing this kind of stuff, it's because they're being paid to, and everybody's got to make a living. Oh, check Twitter. I see. I got that. I think so. Yeah, there's just Nazi trolls in here who are getting very upset because this is actually who comes, to defend Jimmy. Apparently, they're bots, not trolls. I don't know. I think there's some actual, some serious, genuine mechanical trolls in here, I suppose. But these are largely, people who support Jimmy's show, who would show up. And again, if you want to see what side of, the issue some folks are on, then look at who would come to my show, for example, and write that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? So, hold on. Whoops. We'll just keep, keep brooming, just have a break for a moment. I've got a show in a little bit, so. But this is the kind of support Jimmy has. Please mod, let's hold on 1 second. I can do these. Oh, I got G already. That was easy. The meet and greet is after the show, folks, when I do them. Yeah, hug a troll. We're fine. Yes, it's the Russian Friday bot crowd. I popped the algorithm. Yep, I must have hit 30,000 or something. That's why yes. Hold on. Yeah, it's Friday. It's their day off. Yes, you're watching House Sparks Mega Worldwide. The only person who actually goes through this whole nonsense. All the way through. CSL is on a break, so that's partly why. Hold on. There we go. I think we're okay for a moment. Thanks for the virtual hug. I appreciate that. Did we hit 30K already? Is that what happened? That's what did it. Almost. 29.7. We're close. Like and subscribe. Give a thumbs up. I'm okay showtime-wise. I got another 10 minutes. The trolls are very sensitive, They're very upset when you eat away at their support of Jimmy and his neo-Nazi love fest.
Alliances on the global level, new political challenges.
Політичні альянси вже глобального рівня.
Again, can you imagine Jimmy playing a David Duke clip and just going with whatever David Duke says? Going, yeah, it's gospel. It's gospel.
So, let's just recap what he said. Ukraine is being armed as pawns of the West because we have fun killing. We have started a war. We have the most javelins on the European continent, and the European family has already collapsed, and Maidan would have been a gay parade if not for the Nazi influence. And so that guy's the leader of the C-14s. The C-14s was started as a youth wing of the Svoboda Party, founded by Ole Tenahambach. Is that how do you say his name, Max? Janbach. And he's pictured there. Here he is shaking hands. So this guy...
Yes, he started this organization. Biden shook his hand at an event because he was part of the Ukrainian government. And...
Who's big neo-Nazi, shaking hands with this guy who's our president. C-14 signed an agreement with Kiev's city government to patrol its streets in early 2018. And what happened? Well, months later, it began a campaign of pogroms against Romani camps. So,
right, so they made one promise and they lied and they did something else. Got
gypsies, right? And so they're going around killing them.
They're beating them, and it was...
Yeah, no, don't interrupt, Max. Don't... Jimmy said kill, just go with kill.
Sort of an official city program that they...
Sort of an official city program that they did.
They went down to the train station or the train tracks and just pepper sprayed a bunch of very destitute Roma people and chased them away and brutalized them.
Okay, so they pepper sprayed and beat them. No. Don't protect them. Don't protect neo-Nazis. Jimmy said they killed them. Just stick with that.
So let me just say, C-14, the 14 in C-14 refers to the 14 words coined by American neo-Nazi David Lane, and those words are, we must secure the existence of our people and future for white children.
Right. Again, this like low-level grunt group of like an offshoot of, what was that group that fought, yeah, I know, there is no evidence in this. What was the group that... fought in one of the guys ran in New York for mayor this time. The Angels. Yeah, I know. The chats are trying. They're trying very hard. But then again, these are the kind of people who come to the defense of the Guardian Angels. Thank you. Yeah, Curtis and. An offshoot at one point, there was an offshoot of the Guardian Angels, disavowed by the Guardian Angels, by the way, that were acting in a racist way, let's just say. This is very similar in that circumstance, just for the record. And I don't blame the Guardian Angels for that.
So the neo-Nazi Svoboda Party was co-founded by that guy I just showed you shaking hands with, Joe Biden, and a guy named
Right, and the assertion that they're a neo-Nazi party, we'll just take at face value.
Parubi, who served as the chairman of the Ukrainian parliament from 2016 to 2019.
Weird. Is the current administration or the parliament, when did they start? Oh, they started in 2019. So if you wanted to denazify the Ukrainian government, you kind of missed your bus stop, asshole. Because now the country is run by a Jew, and there's a bunch of people in the I doubt the parliament is full of neo-Nazis at this point.
So do you see where I'm getting at when I start throwing around the term neo-Nazi?
Yes, I see it. Yes, that it pertained to a period, especially around Yanukovych and Russian meddling in the Ukrainian government, that was meant to undermine the entire society. And that is ages ago. And now they have a stable functioning government that is not overrun by Nazis. And that's when, once the Nazis were purged in 2019, that's when Putin started making noise to go in.
Intertwined with...
Where the fuck was he in 2016 when they were overrun?
Government, and was welcomed at the U.S. Senate by Joe Biden's foreign policy man, Michael Carpenter.
Because they welcomed the Ukrainian government because they were working from transitioning from the Russian-controlled sock puppets to now, and they were trying to weed through who was there, and there was a delegation, and the Ukrainians picked their delegation.
And
fucking hell.
Here, this is from The Nation from 2019.
Oh, well then, if it's in 2019, then clearly it was when the nation was run by neo-Nazis, so I don't know how to take it. I mean, I said it. I said the nation used to be run by neo-Nazis. That doesn't have to be true. I mean, I just said it.
5 years ago, Ukraine's Maidan uprising ousted President Viktor Yanukovych.
Who Jimmy completely supports.
The cheers in support of the West.
Mm-hmm. Why would they be cheering and supporting this guy?
Politicians and analysts in the United States and Europe not only celebrated the uprising as a triumph of democracy, but denied reports of Maidan's ultranationalism, smearing those who warned about the dark side of the uprising as Moscow puppets and useful idiots.
Which they turned out to be.
Freedom was on the march in Ukraine. So anybody...
And it was. It was absolutely on the march in Ukraine. It's how the current government got in place, and they are not overrun by Nazis. The Nazis were puppets of Moscow. The Nazis were useful idiots.
Who pointed this out?
No, they pointed it out at the time, and they were mistaken. They were denying the reality. The nation was wrong about this. Hence, Jewish president, new cabinet.
Was called a Putin puppet. And
right. Because they were.
Useful idiot.
Right. Because they were.
Like anybody who said Russiagate was garbage.
Russiagate isn't a thing. You made that up.
Today, increasing reports of far-right violence, ultranationalism, and erosion of basic freedoms are giving the lie to the West's initial euphoria.
That's in 2019, by the way, and we've come a long way since then with the new president.
There are neo-Nazi pogroms against the Roma.
Right, that's the quote from before. Same writers writing in two different places.
Rampant attacks on feminists and LGBT groups.
And clearly that's not the case right now, considering the work of their current president.
Book bans and state-sponsored glorification of Nazi collaborators.
Yes, before the current president. While Moscow was actively trying to undermine the government.
Post-Maidan Ukraine is the world's only nation to have a neo-Nazi formation in its armed forces.
Oh my God. And now they don't. Weird.
The Azov Battalion was initially formed out of the neo-Nazi gang, the Patriot of Ukraine. And here it
Yes, initially formed.
is. That's their...
And again, there's the Azov Battalion, which that's the whole military. That's the entirety of the Ukrainian military. Because that group exists, and because the Russian mobsters that were basically running the goddamn country up until Yanukovych was broomed, and shortly thereafter, as they started weeding through everybody, hence the whole get rid of that prosecutor, you're not getting $1 billion, because he was one of these assholes. They purged it out. The new administration has nothing to do with that. It is not their fault that they have a history of it. This is like saying that after the reunification of Berlin and the wall came down, that Germany should not be one country again because there were neo-Nazi factions throughout the country.
Symbol. Arsen Avakov, the new Minister of Internal Affairs of Ukraine, after the overthrow of Yanukovych's government, he issued in April 13th, 2014, a decree authorizing creating the new paramilitary force from civilians.
Yes, while the government was topless and not under the support of the current president.
Up to 12,000 people.
In 44 million people in the entire country, there are 12,000 paramilitary neo-Nazi civilians in the eastern area and in Crimea that form the Azov Battalion, which is exactly where the Russians took over and have started feeding them. 6 fucking years ago.
What happened? Well, initially a volunteer militia formed as the Azov Battalion, May 2014, during the 2014 pro-Russian unrest in Ukraine. Azov has since been incorporated into its arms by Ukraine's Ministry of Internal Affairs.
In 2014, not till 2019.
Just like I told you. The Azov
Just like I told you.
Battalion is a far-right... This is from Military WikiLeaks.
Yeah, military WikiLeaks. No, it's military Wiki.
Wikipedia, is a far-right, all-volunteer infantry military unit forming part of the military reserve of National Guard of Ukraine. Okay. And its first combat experience was recapturing Mariupol from the pro-Russian separatist forces in June 2014.
Yeah, and Mariupol is now a free city of Ukraine until the Russians just came in and started bombing apartment buildings. What the fuck are you talking about? Oh, thank you. I'm almost out of time.
All members of the unit are under contract of the National Guard of Ukraine. The Azov Battalion has been labeled neo-Nazi patriots, a far-right Ukrainian militia. And so they're officially a part of their military.
And they've been labeled this.
This isn't a secret.
Yeah. What the fuck? Why is that the fault of the rest of Ukraine? Why does the rest of Ukraine deserve to be invaded because of this remnant from when the country was run by Yanukovych?
Andy Beletsky, the gang's leader, who became Azov's commander, once wrote that Ukraine's mission is to lead the white races out of the world in a final crusade against the Semite-led Untermenschen. Beletsky.
Oh yeah, the Semite-led. Weird that they have a Jewish president now. I don't know if that plan is going well.
Is now a deputy in Ukraine's parliament.
In 19.
So again, there's a lot to this accusation of neo-Nazis being in the Ukraine military.
Yeah, so they deserved it because they have this force that Russia fomented for years in an attempt to discredit the government of Ukraine. And now Jimmy is carrying the testicles of Vladimir Putin to present to you, look, there's this one neo-Nazi battalion that was started under the Yanukovych crowd that believes in this bullshit. And they've been around for a long time. And there's 14,000 of them, citizens that were called up into this thing. And then they were in there until 2019. And that's still true now. And because they exist, Ukraine deserves the rest of this shit. I mean, because you have to understand, the title of this, Ukraine neo-Nazis infiltrate every level of military and government. Not some random battalion, the Azov Battalion, that's been absorbed by the government because they had a choice, push them out and make them separatists of another sort, or absorb them at some rocky time when there was no functioning president before Zelensky took office, by the way. I'm sure he wasn't their first choice. Right?
Syrian government. Beletsky is also the head of two neo-Nazi political groups, the Patriot of Ukraine and Social National Assembly. In August 2014, he was awarded a military decoration.
In 2014, when Yanukovych ran the fucking place.
Order for Courage by Ukrainian President Petro Poroshenko.
Right, the guy who followed Yanukovych.
And promoted to lieutenant colonel of the Interior Ministry's police forces.
And there's right. And if Vladimir Putin had invaded in 2014, you might have had a point. You didn't, and you wouldn't have, because it's fucking awful. Because the rest of the country, it isn't their fault that this shit is happening. But these are all pro-Putin people. Fucking hell. And now it's, it is, I don't know if you've looked at the fucking calendar, Jimmy. It's 2022. The new administration has been in there since 2019.
Do you see what I'm talking about now?
Yes, you're talking about 8 years ago when the pro-Russian puppet Yanukovych was run off, and the government started to shake off some of the pro-Russian, sock puppets that were hamstringing their government for fucking years to make sure that they were never a functioning democracy because they couldn't stand the competition and they didn't want them joining with Europe. And every time they tried, they would do some sort of military action in the country. And Putin sent these fuckers in.
Okay.
Or fomented them from the inside. That was the difference. Some are Putin puppets. Other ones are useful idiots.
So let all the other asswipes deny this.
But that's what they are. They're asswipes because it's 2022, but we have to punish the current administration and the people of Ukraine for shit that happened under Russian sock puppets in 2014.
But we're here to report it.
Are you?
On June 11th,
2015?
And you know how I super know these are real neo-Nazis? Because
how do you super know?
our own House of Representatives admitted it. In 2015, the U.S. House of Representatives passed amendments blocking any training of Azov by U.S. forces.
Why would we do that? I thought we were for neo-Nazis. Aren't we for neo-Nazis?
Citing its neo-Nazi background as the reason. And on June 26th, the Canadian...
Right. Did we not train the rest of the Ukrainian military? Did we not trade with the rest of Ukrainians? Did we stop and cut off all relationships with the Ukrainian government? Why not? I mean, there's Nazis at every level.
The Canadian defense minister declared as well that training by Canadian forces or support would not be provided to Azov. So this is our own governments admitting that they're Nazis.
Right, they were. In fucking 2015.
They now deny it.
No, they don't. They deny that the country is neo-Nazi. The current Jewish president is not a neo-Nazi. That's what this is about. What the fuck is wrong with this dude's brain?
Patrons of the battalion...
He's still reading shit about the history in 2014 and 2015, as if time doesn't move forward. Fuck,
included Ola Lishak.
Yes. What about I was promised neo-Nazi infiltration of every level of military and government. I don't need to know about one southern battalion that was rolled into their National Guard. By the way, by Russian sock puppets and stiff-armed by the current regime, and who's claiming that the entire Euromaidan movement was because of them. I wasn't promised that. At some point you're going to start telling me about the Daughters of the Confederacy are integral to the creation of the United States, or the Civil Rights Bill. Right? Is that what we're going to argue now? I was promised every level, Jimmy.
The New York Times called the battalion openly neo-Nazi, while the USA Today, the Daily Beast, the Telegraph, and Haaretz documented group members' proclivity.
Proclivity. And it's Haaretz. Fucking hell.
How do you say that word?
Proclivity.
Proclivity.
Proclivity. Proclivity for swastikas, salutes, and other Nazi symbols. And individual fighters have also acknowledged being neo-Nazis.
Oh, well, if individual fighters of the group that's been called neo-Nazis identify themselves as neo-Nazis, I don't know why we aren't strafe-bombing apartment buildings ourselves right now.
So I'll be bringing Max, so I don't know how much else proof that people need, but people will still...
This is the only thing I would need, is for it to currently be 2014.
It. Just like people still pretend that Russiagate was real, even though...
Yes, it was.
Never been a shred of evidence.
Yes, there has. And also, why he automatically feels the need to run interference for Trump in this moment is odd.
All the evidence goes the other way. So
no, it doesn't. All the evidence does not go the other way. And as a matter of fact, one of the biggest parts of the evidence around quote unquote what he calls Russiagate was the fact that Paul Manafort worked for Trump's campaign for fucking free and was contacting people in these Russian sock puppets in Ukraine, the Yanukovyches of the world, and said he would help them with the Trump campaign to make his debts with them whole, somewhere in the order of like $25 million that they had sent him. So he worked for Trump for free so he could settle that debt. And in settling that debt, he shared with them polling information and where they might want to target some of their propaganda that they were doing. And the primary aspect of Manafort was he went to the RNC and, with Trump's permission, removed the idea of giving offensive weaponry to Ukraine. That was his job, and he worked for Yanukovych. And it was his idea, along with Yanukovych, to put the agent provocateurs in the crowd and start a gunfight so they'd have a reason to put down the protesters and murder them in the fucking street. And Jimmy thinks that Yanukovych and Paul Manafort were robbed, and that Manafort's relation to Yanukovych and the deaths in the streets during the Euromaidan was just him cleansing neo-Nazis, and that Trump's hiring of Paul Manafort, who worked for free to do this, and their alignment to limit lethal aid to Ukraine specifically is Russiagate. It's all fabric.
Would you like to comment on
It's all fabricated.
that?
Well, you laid it out really well.
Yeah, great. I feel, yeah, you laid it out really well. There's a neo-Nazi, believe everything he says. Meanwhile, NPR is the enemy. Got it.
I mean, that much to add, except that I could go on for another hour adding detail after detail.
Right.
Yeah, detail after detail. None of it involves time passing forward.
I guess I would make 3 points. The first one quickly, which is that you talked about the C-14 neo-Nazi youth wing of the Svoboda party, which is one of the largest parties in Ukraine, Svoboda. It's not a neo-Nazi party. I would call it more ultra-nationalist.
Yeah, no. Jimmy said it's neo-Nazis, and they've infiltrated everything. The Svoboda party is neo-Nazi. Just leave it there. Because if they have a subset that's neo-Nazi, then they're responsible for all of that. And it's obviously, that's how the subset was born, was because they are neo-Nazis. So don't backtrack what Jimmy's saying.
The U.S. is...
You already fucked up by telling them that they didn't kill the Romanis. They just pepper sprayed them and ran them off. That's, I mean, how many balloons are you going to pop?
To kind of keep it out of the limelight. But, you know, if you look at the 2014...
Keep it out of the limelight. You mean the party that is ultra-nationalist but doesn't want to be associated with the neo-Nazis that broke away from their party? They don't get points for staying away from those fucking people?
Of John McCain and
I gotta go. Yeah, you're right. 3 minutes.
Chris Murphy on stage in Maidan Square. Ole Tianbach is standing right there with them. I mean, they're on stage with that guy. And C-14 is the youth wing of this party that carried out pogroms under the official watch of the Kiev Municipal Council in 2018 against Roma.
Sorry, when? Sorry?
Of the Kiev Municipal Council in 2018 against Roma.
Oh, in 2018. Oh, you mean the year before the current president, who's Jewish, became president by a huge popular vote in the country of Ukraine through a legal and legitimate election where the majority of the Ukrainians elected a Jewish person? But this happened in 2018 because of the previous government that got voted out. So, of course, 4 years later, Russia has to, or 3 years later, Russia has to attack. Fucking hell. This is grotesque. All right, I gotta go. I'm gonna be late again, and then there's so much to do, and it's so much fun. But the radio show will be on tomorrow, and I appreciate you guys joining me for this. And I'm trying to shoehorn these shows in and around my other shows, and we'll add a mod or something. So that I don't have to chase all this nonsense over the next couple of days. But, you know, because anytime we play stuff that's dealing with Jimmy or any of these guys, we're going to be hit by racist fascists. Because I don't know if you know this, but I wouldn't say I'd consider him an anti-nationalist. But he's got an offshoot of neo-Nazis that he tries to distance himself from. But... anyways, we'll deal with more of this as it comes along, but I wanted to be abundantly clear that a lot of these assholes, like Brand's trying to walk his way back, but Jimmy is just all in. The Ukrainians deserve this. They are a neo-Nazi country, and Putin has no choice, even though he's against it. He's for it, because why would you be against the purging of neo-Nazis? They're everywhere. It's just fucking gross. I don't get it. I don't understand how he's okay with this nonsense, but he's all in. He's dug in. He's not going anywhere. He's not walking back any of it. He's like, that's it. Jimmy has completely committed to the idea that these people have it coming, and he's going to stay there. Okay, bye. All right, I'm leaving. I'm leaving. I'm getting out of here. Put up the music, and then I'll head out. Much love to you guys. Thank you for your support. Like and subscribe. Give a thumbs up. Support the show in any way you can. And I will see you for the radio show tomorrow. Okay, bye.